everybody, and welcome to another episode of the M&A Mastermind Podcast, your go-to source for the latest in industry trends and strategies to help you level up your M&A practice. I am your host, Nick Olsen, Managing Director of Cornerstone International Alliance, a group of lower middle market M&A firms. Here we bring in masterminds who are experienced and knowledgeable and gracious enough to share how they have succeeded in the world of M&A, and today's guest is no different. Excited to have our guest on today. He is a partner in the Cornerstone's first firm from Canada. He has his master's degree in business administration and is a certified business valuator. Has over 19 years of professional financial experience. In his free time, you may find him on the basketball court or the golf course, in between spending time with his wife and 2 kids and his very large St. Bernard, I hear. Please welcome my guest today, partner at Portage M&A Advisory out of Ontario, Canada, Ryan Buist. Ryan, thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
What's the St. Bernard's name?
Birdie.
Okay.
Yeah. She is big. She's about 10 months old, and apparently she's going to keep on growing. She's already 130 pounds. So.
Yeah, that's a large dog.
Yeah.
That's a large dog.
Yeah.
But, they're one of your kids, right?
Exactly.
Well, again, thank you for joining me today. Today we're talking about utilizing business assessments for client acquisition. So before we dive into that topic, Ryan, tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience and your expertise in doing business valuations.
Sure. So I've been doing business valuations, actual formal reports for about 13 years. As Nick mentioned, I'm a chartered business valuator, which is in Canada, it's one of the preeminent valuation designations. So we do. I've done valuations for a lot of different purposes, whether that be for litigation, for marital disputes, shareholder disputes. Obviously, being an M&A firm, we do a lot of valuations for sales or for tax planning. And I would say, our goal in our firm is to do valuations to make sure that people are comfortable with that sale price and that they do have enough to retire in the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you kind of hit on my next question, but from just a firm perspective, you mentioned you do a lot of different types of valuations. So what is Portage's take on what valuations are doing for you, your firm, and the clients that you're serving?
Yeah, for our firm, it does bring in a lot of work. We like to see people as early as possible. So if we can see people, 3-4 years prior to a sale, it really helps us get those clients what they need. So that might be tax planning, and it really makes sure they're actually getting the value they need on a sale. It also helps our partners. So a lot of our partners are banks, lawyers, accountants. It makes sure that they're also comfortable with that sale process, and they're also more in our corner because they know that we're helping with that whole process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. That's something you don't always think about too. Obviously, you want the business owner to know the value, but they have their trusted advisors, and to bring them in on that conversation, I think is genius, because if they're not comfortable, they're second guessing what the valuation says. They might not be as helpful to you in the process and working with their client.
Exactly. Like a lot of our work comes from wealth planners, and they really need to understand how much money they're going to get when a business is sold to make sure that client can actually retire, or that they're comfortable with retirement, and they can say, yes, you might have to cut consumption down when you retire, or you don't. So it's really crucial to some of those deal team members that are outside of our firm.
Mm-hmm. How do you include them? So I would imagine you talk to the client, you kind of gather all the information necessary that you need. You take it through your process of doing the formal, the actual assessment on the business, and then are you presenting that to the client and their wealth advisor in many cases, or is it kind of two different conversations? How do you handle that?
Yeah, generally we present the value just to the client, but then we'll have a side conversation with that wealth advisor with the client's permission and say, hey, this is what we think is going to be the case on this sale, and please take it back to your client and have those discussions. We really want to make sure that our client is comfortable. The reason we started to go, let's do a lot more valuations and really thorough valuations up front. We've had buyers in the past where you get to a week, 2 weeks before close, and all of a sudden they said, I don't think I have enough money to retire. And it's such a nerve-wracking experience for them. And now they're thinking, do I stop the deal? Do I pull back from the deal? And that's the last thing we want. We want to make sure that they're comfortable, right?
Right. Yeah. That 2 weeks before close, have that conversation. You're like, oh no.
Yeah. Exactly. So,
do you have an example? Going to put you on the spot here of, having a valuation done for a client. You send it to them, and the wealth manager doesn't agree, or maybe the hesitation is on the business owner, and they're like, I don't think this is the right fit for me right now. Have you ever had a wealth advisor kind of go to bat for you, with the client, to be like, yeah, maybe this is a good idea based on this valuation, here's why, kind of thing? They can go through the numbers and the financials. And I mean, does that happen, or do you have an example off the top of your head that has kind of gone through that?
Yeah, we actually do. We have lots of examples where we actually lean on the wealth advisors. There are a lot of wealth advisors that actually have a chartered business evaluator on their team, which actually does help. So they'll say, hey, Ryan, can you do the valuation? And maybe the client says, I thought I could get a lot more money for that business. And we will take it back to their team and say, okay, I'll talk with the members of your team and we can discuss this. And once they realize, all the numbers we did behind to actually get that value, they will go to back and say, listen, you have to understand, you're in the lower mid-market. You're not getting a 10 times multiple for this business. It just doesn't make sense. And everything Ryan's telling you is correct. And if you really need more money, you might have to delay the sale, which has happened. You delay that sale for a couple of years and listen to Ryan. He'll tell you what risks you need to get out of the business to maybe get a higher multiple, or how you can get to a higher multiple.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always good to have them on your side. It's probably not always as fun to have them on the opposite side of the equation, right?
Exactly. That's why having them bring us in is really an advantageous thing. And that's why we offer those services to those people. If it's a really trusted advisor, we're not charging for that valuation. We're saying, hey, we can do this at a high level, like more of a pricing diagnostic, and then we can discuss that with you.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, you've built that rapport with that wealth advisor, and you want to do right by them because a little bit of it is their reputation on the line to bring you in as a third party to do this valuation and possibly sell their business. So obviously, everyone wants to do the best job possible, and to gain that trust from them is only going to be helpful in the future.
Exactly.
How are you guys marketing your valuation services? And who are your target audiences in that? Obviously the business owner, but I would imagine that your referral sources as well.
Yeah. So we'll do marketing, just general marketing on LinkedIn. That's not really to get too much work. That's more to say, hey, we're out here. But I would say we really are targeting those deal team outside of our office. So that's the lawyers, the accountants, the wealth advisors, like those who are really, we're going up for lunches, meeting them. We're not actively looking to get right to the business owner. We really want those referrals from the trusted advisors. So that's really how we are getting our work, through those trusted sources. Because we want to make sure that there's a little bit of pre-screening before they come to us. Whereas if we go out to the market, it's not necessarily going to be the case.
Yeah. Do you are you doing valuations? Obviously, you're doing valuations from those referral sources because the business owner that's a warm lead. They want to know the value of their business. Outside of that group, are you doing valuations as a revenue generator, or are you doing it mostly to generate clients to hopefully have them as sell side, clients down the road?
Yeah, so we do it for both reasons. Like obviously we're doing it to have sell side down the road, but there are a lot of cases where we'll do it for obviously revenue generation. And those are more cases where they actually need a true valuation, a formal valuation report. And that could be for tax planning. That could be for a shareholder dispute where it might be a litigation and I might have to go to court.
Yeah.
So we do those as well. And a lot of times we'll also do it for a management buyout where they need a value. They all trust each other. They just need a value to say this is the value for that sale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How, I guess, when you're talking directly to the business owner, obviously if it's coming from a referral source, they've kind of softened, the blow a little bit as to why you need it. But what is your pitch to a business owner as to why they need a valuation?
Yes, and this is going to all depend on when we see them in the process. So if we see them very early in the process, say 5 years before a sale, it's pretty easy. You need it for a number of reasons. You need it for tax planning. You can save a lot of tax dollars if you plan early and get a valuation. Also, you can increase the value of your business. Like let's do the steps to increase the value of your business. A valuation will show you a lot of those areas because I'm telling you where the risk is. I'm telling you where the areas that need to be changed to increase a multiple, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we're seeing them, 12 months before a sale, and we're really just, why do you need a valuation at that point? Well, you need to know what the market is going to bear, right? So we're telling you, saying this is what it's going to bear. Yes, we're going to try to get more than that, but realistically, this is where we think it's going to sell at. So let's truly plan your life around that, right? So you've got 12 months to plan. Let's plan how you're going to use those proceeds and if they're going to be enough proceeds, because we know the selling process has lots of up and down. Like every seller, no matter how seamless the transaction is going to have their nerves at certain points. So one thing we can get, here's one thing we can do to lessen your nerves. Make sure you're comfortable with that value.
Right. If you're doing a valuation 5 years out, do you have a cadence of updating that over the course of, from that time on, maybe 3, 4, 5 years down the road? Because obviously a lot can change in a couple of years, right?
Exactly. Yeah, we like to see them on a yearly basis. Depending, if it's a bigger company, depending on the industry, maybe more often. But we also, there's certain industries, and we find it where all of a sudden the industry gets really hot, right? So you're dealing with anything in the medical space right now, and maybe the multiple was always around 4 times, and maybe now we're getting 7 or 8 times multiples. We'll definitely call up that client and say, hey, we know you weren't ready to sell because of the price, but we're seeing some really strong multiples. This might be the time to sell because you might not see them 3, 4 years down the road when you truly are ready, and you might get the same price now. So do you want to update that valuation and maybe test the market?
Yeah. That's, I would imagine, and you guys kind of keep the pulse on your pulse on the pulse of the market, because you want to be able to have those conversations, because it could be an 8 now, but then 2 years, down the road when they were planning on it, might be back to a 4. You never know.
Exactly. And that's where the Cornerstone Network International really helps us. We can talk to all the other advisors in that network and say, hey, what's everyone seeing? Is there a hot industry? And being a Canadian is even better for us because the States usually get hot before us. So 6, 7 months, they're seeing a roll up or something major happening in the States. We know we're going to see it. So we can start to warn our clients even prior to the market getting hot in Canada.
Yeah. Your pseudo crystal ball.
Exactly.
So, obviously, we talked about why a business owner should get a valuation. And it's obviously a way that, you guys can just start the conversation. We had yesterday, we had our M&A Advisor Mastermind session, and we talked a lot about how do you qualify leads or prospects, because, if it's a good quality business and a good owner, obviously that makes, our lives a lot easier, right? So based off of, it was a great conversation and just things that, everybody looks for and whatnot. But, from obviously from the valuation, you can understand based off the numbers if a business is ready at this point in time, or maybe it's down the road. But kind of from the business owner side of it, how do you just, kind of like more subjective, opinion of the business owner, how do you know, or what are things you look for as you're going through the valuation and you're kind of thinking about, is this business owner himself or herself ready to go? And how do you gauge that?
Yeah. So one of the things we look at, we have a kind of a rating system. One of the big things is responsiveness. How responsive are they to our clients? If they're dragging their heels, we know they're not 100% ready. So we're saying, hey, get us that information. If it takes you a month, 2 months, we're like, maybe they're not ready. And then there's other questions that we're asking. It's all part of the valuation to determine value. Like, how involved are you in the business? Do you have people that can manage below you? And if they don't, we know they might not be ready to sell their business. They haven't thought of that total transition play. So They haven't thought about, hey, I'm ready to sell. I've got to transition. What do I have to do to get ready for that sale? And then the other thing we like to look at evaluation is how strong are your trusted advisors outside of Portage? Like, so how strong are your accountants? How strong are your lawyers? Are you ready? Are they ready for a sale? Are their accountants going to cause roadblocks for us during the sale? And will they take our advice and say, maybe you have outgrown your accountant? Because there's a lot of people that we deal with that have truly outgrown their accountant, but they've been with them for 20 years and they don't want to quit. But we've had cases in the past where, unfortunately, we had to sell in a certain way we wouldn't have wanted to because the accountant financials were so bad, right?
Yeah.
And we said, we'd like you to switch, and we know there's going to be a problem if you don't switch. They didn't want to switch, and it obviously affected the selling price. We know it did. It could have been a $2 million swing in selling price, but they were aware of it. They wanted to sell, and they didn't want to spend 2 to 3 years to fix that. But at the end of the day, if we were doing evaluation early on, we said, we think you need to switch accountants, and they didn't want to, it kind of shows they might not be ready.
Now, so I guess since you brought up accountants, we'll talk about that. I know you mentioned the financials. You can tell maybe a little bit by just, the financials that you get from them. But how else are you figuring out if their trusted advisor, their accountant is going to benefit them, or is it going to be a roadblock?
Yeah, so a lot of times we'll talk to an accountant and they'll start to tell us that the valuation is too low. The working capital is not what we're seeing, even though we've looked at a ton of data. And I guess they're trying to push for a higher value for their client, but if they're pushing to such a degree that that they're going to cause problems down the road, that's where we get uneasy with that advisor. And so we really have to get comfortable with that because we don't want them to derail a process later on. We've had people that all of a sudden working capital comes up as an issue, and the accountants actually truly don't understand working capital, which they should, and they actually don't, and they're trying to argue something that, even though we're advisors, we know we can't argue with the buyer. Like, there's no way we can, even though this accountant's telling us whatever they're telling us. Some of those things just don't make any sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's probably a science or art rather than a science on some levels.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely a feel game. Like, you have to feel it out, and you have to be comfortable. And if you're not comfortable, they've got sellers putting 12 months of their time, and we're putting 12 months of our time in music for a sale process, right? So everyone has to be comfortable. And you have to be comfortable that something's not going to happen at the 11th hour to destroy a deal.
Any examples of something that you were uneasy about, but you moved forward and then it kind of came up to bite you later on?
Yeah, we had a client who, we went with the valuation. He said it's not high enough. We said, well, that's what we'll get. He talked to his wealth advisor. His wealth advisor thought it was worth more. We said, really, like that is the value. And he said, fine, and he's going to move forward. And kind of got the feeling maybe he wasn't okay with value. We ended up getting him $1.5 million more than that actual valuation. So it was a really good deal. Like, this buyer you'll never get another buyer like this that would offer that amount. But at the end of the day, I think you get more. I think you can get more. You probably want more to retire with, and at the end of the day, he decided to pull the plug and said, "I'm going to come back in 2 years and sell the business." Knowing that we'll never get that again, and that buyer's gone, and we would obviously, it would be hard for us to take that client on again.
Yeah, right. Because you've fool you once, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What are some tactics that you guys deploy to turn a evaluation or business assessment into a signed client? When you're going through that valuation, you're like, how do you turn that paid valuation into something that you're going to take on the market?
Yeah, I think it's just laying out the advantages to actually to using a firm that actually is dialed into the price and has network. So we'll say, hey, we're doing the valuation. This is the value we're going to come up with, but we could get a higher value because we do have a strong network. And just showing, we are a very professional firm that does things like any other investment bank. We're not going to be just throwing out numbers and posting or wherever the case might be. Having a network such as Cornerstone International is a real strong selling point. So it's really doing that valuation in a very professional, thorough way, and then using, the company and our reputation and our, Cornerstone's reputation to really sell that business, whether it's 2 to 3 years down the road. And then obviously using the referral that gave us that original valuation, they're also pushing for them to continue on that process.
Yeah. And I would imagine, just knowing you guys, that, and generally the firms that are in our group that, one, you don't want to take on an opportunity that's not going to be successful, not only for your own purposes, but for the clients as well, obviously. But I would think, do you say ever, do you use the tactic of, we're not going to put you in a position to not succeed. Obviously, we want to succeed with you. So, if someone's not ready, you're going to actually be upfront and tell them that, I would imagine.
Yeah, definitely. And the valuation really does help with that. We take on a select number of actual deals. So we'll let people know that we're not taking on every deal that we see. So if we take it on, we think that, we have a very high success rate in selling. It's 90, 95%. So we're taking it on because we're not getting paid really until we sell that business, right? So we can't take on businesses that we feel a little uneasy with, or through that valuation process, we've found something that isn't right that needs to be fixed, and they're not willing to fix it, and they still want to just go to market. We can't take that risk, just like they shouldn't take that risk.
Right. Yeah, it's a mutual risk there. And so, you do evaluation, the business owner's not ready, or they're just, whether it's from, the financials, the business, or they're just mentally not ready. Obviously, you want to stay top of mind with them whenever that time might come. I would imagine this happens more so than someone's ready to sell tomorrow. So how are you managing and nurturing those clients to make sure that, you're staying top of mind, you're helping them, maybe it's value enhancement or helping them grow the business, but making sure that you develop that rapport so they do come back to you?
Yeah. So listen, we're doing evaluation. We're pointing out a lot of things that can increase the value. We're not going to be sitting there holding your hand to increase that value, but that's where we can use our trusted partners. We can say, hey, we've got a lot of business coaches and a lot of very good business coaches that we can refer you to. And obviously, we have good communications with those business coaches. So we know exactly what's going on. And obviously, if we refer them, there's a good chance they're going to say, hey, they're ready to sell now. They'll come back and use you. But that's really how we're trying to help them. If we've seen them very early, it's like, you need to do this. We're not going to hold your hand to do this, but here's someone that can, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times it's, hey, they don't want to spend the money, but maybe you can spend the money on a smaller rate, get a fractional CFO. So we could bring a fractional CFO and say, that person can clean up your books. That person can do a lot of that work and at a lower cost, right? So there's ways of doing things where you don't have to spend a fortune to increase that value. And they've been, that valuation has really helped to highlight those issues. And by using our referral network, we know there's a good chance that those deals will eventually come back to our firm.
Yeah. And there's a lot of trust in that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
and the trust comes not only from, that you're trusted, your referral sources, but trust in the fact that you guys run a really good process. You're experienced, you're professionals, and that obviously know what you're doing, but that, showing the business owner that, this is what you need, and trusting that you will get it done for them, obviously, is big.
Yeah, exactly. And it speaks to our firm. I would say that many times we're getting someone come to us and they've been referred by 3 or 4 people. So they go, it's crazy. I have 3 or 4 people have said, hey, use Portage. So that makes us feel good, and that makes us feel confident that, even if we do help them for a very low cost up front to do evaluation or whatever the service is, that eventually that referral will come back to our network.
Right. And, from our conversation today, I would say, evaluation is very much a tactic to gain clientele. Obviously, you're still helping the client, but it is a way that you can have a conversation without, going right to, hey, can I sell your business for you? Kind of, date a little bit before you get married, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we want to be comfortable. They want to be comfortable, and honestly, like, we want to make sure people are ready to sell, and we want them to do what's best for them. And if it's not Portage, it's not Portage, right? Like we want to know that up front, because it's better to know it. It's better to know it even if it's 5 years ahead of time than to go down a path, and at that point everyone's put in time and just wasted a lot of time.
Right, exactly. So yeah, I appreciate the conversation here today, Ryan. I learned a lot from you. I'm hopeful our listeners learned a lot as well. But just to kind of wrap up, from our conversation today, one to two or three things, to recap, like why should an M&A practice be doing these valuations, and what the benefits are of them? I think most people are, but just to kind of recap and kind of put it into a couple of bullet points.
Yeah. So like, to me, the biggest reason is, and we do a lot of presentations on this, is your client comfortable with the money they're going to get on close? Are they comfortable that they can retire? Because you really want to make sure that they are very comfortable because of all the ups and downs that happen during the selling process. I'd say that is probably the number one reason I like to do a valuation, is just to make sure they're comfortable with the whole situation. This is what we think it's going to sell for. Are you comfortable with that? Go back and talk with people. Like, I don't want to pressure anyone into a sale. So I think having a true valuation team that can really narrow in that number, and it's not just like, hey, I think it's this multiple. It's an actual, we've done the work. That's what we think it is. I think just getting people through that process, just getting people comfortable with the whole process.
Right. Yeah. Very good point, because, you don't feel comfortable. They don't feel comfortable. Chances are it's not going to be successful.
Exactly.
Well, Ryan, thanks again for joining. This conversation has been amazing. If anyone wants to learn more about Portage or the valuation work that you guys do, where can we send them?
Yeah, best place, you can reach out to me at ryan.buist@portagemanaadvisory.com, or you can reach us on our site. It's portagemanaadvisory.com. You can. There's a bunch of different people you can contact there. And obviously, you could also reach out to Nick, and Nick knows how to get him.
I can get him a hold of you as well. Now, you guys have your own podcast, correct?
We do.
Yeah. Well, I want you to plug that podcast.
Yeah, go to our website. There'll be a list of a lot of podcasts. The podcasts, we're also on Spotify. You can find us through there as well. If you look up our firm, Portage M&A Advisory, you'll also find that podcast. It'll be a lot more Jim, who's the other partner that's speaking. I do make some guest appearances, so you don't have to listen to my voice the entire time.
Yeah, your podcast is great, and it's another resource to learn more about, just M&A advisory work and the people that you work with. And so, yeah, definitely go check out their podcast as well. Again, Ryan, thank you so much for your time. One thing that will help Ryan and myself out tremendously is for all of you listeners to like, comment, share this episode. Send it to anybody who can benefit from our conversation here today. You can find all of our episodes at cornerstoneia.com/podcast. We're also on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, all those great locations. So find us there as well. Hopefully you had a couple of takeaways from today's discussion that you can use to help you take your practice to the next level. Again, thank you for listening. Until next time, thank you, everybody.